Fantasia was released in 1940 and was made by Walt Disney and Company, and is a concert film that combines both the best in animation and the best in classical music, combining the two together into seamlessness as it tells different varying stories. Guys, this is a movie that I've been really excited to talk about on the channel for quite some time, and it's a movie that I've revisited quite a bit in the past couple of years, always finding something new and interesting to look at within the film and appreciate the music choices and the animation choices. And this is, without a doubt, one of the greatest feats of animation I've ever seen. It is, without a doubt, an absolute masterpiece. And it all comes to us from Walt Disney and Leopold Stokowski, who both met together and conceived a movie idea that would bring animation and classical music together and blend them together so seamlessly that you couldn't imagine them apart. During the golden era of Disney, Walt Disney himself was very ambitious with his projects, particularly in the first 5 films that they made at the studio, mainly due to wanting to push the envelope of animation. He did that with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, just getting it done, and he improved upon it with Pinocchio as they dealt with different techniques that they didn't do in Snow White, such as the waves and the way the animation flowed. And here, he was going to do the exact same thing with Fantasia, although he was taking a huge risk with Fantasia, perhaps even more so than with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Fantasia was not going to be a traditional film in the narrative sense. It was going to be a concert film where you were going to listen to music and watch what the animators brought to the screen with connecting it to that music. And in that way, it was unlike anything, and still unlike anything that has been made today. There are a few exceptions. Walt Disney attempted to do this multiple times, and we also got the sequel, Fantasia 2000, near the beginning of the century. But still, this is so wholly unique, and it's absolutely brilliant. Walt envisioned this not exactly as a movie, but an experience. You would go to the theater, there would only be 1 or 2 showings per day. You would get an assigned seat like you were going to an event. And then you would get a pamphlet of what would be shown, and it was just such an ambitious idea that was not financially viable at all. This movie sadly did not bring in the amount of money that something like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs did. And a lot of that is due to the type of film that it was, the way Walt Disney presented it, as well as the fact that World War II was on the way, and there was fear that this would not be able to go overseas. Walt Disney, on top of implementing new animation techniques, also implemented new sound techniques, creating Fantasound that was a surround sound system, more or less, that really only a few theaters throughout the US could implement Fantasound, and so that made this very obscure, being able to see it in its entirety. But still, it's an ambitious feat nonetheless, and I absolutely adore it. So anyway, let's get into the real meat of this review, talking about Fantasia itself. There were 8 segments that were conceived for Fantasia, and they're all brilliantly different and interesting in their own ways. Of those 8, we have the Toccata and Fugue, the Nutcracker Suite, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Rite of Spring, the Pastoral Symphony, Dance of the Hours, Night on Bald Mountain, and the Ave Maria. All of these are wholly unique in their own way, and I enjoy all of them in different ways. My favorites have to be the Toccata and Fugue, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, the Rite of Spring, the Pastoral Symphony, Night on Bald Mountain, followed by the Ave Maria. I think all of these are just absolutely brilliant, but that's not to say the rest is lacking. All of them are phenomenal. I particularly like how the Toccata and Fugue really paints a picture for you, basically putting images on the screen of what your mind might be thinking as you are listening to the music. And it's so great because this is more or less what we had very early on in the early 2000s. I remember putting on music on my computer, and there would be like these little light shows that would dance around to the music that was playing. It was very much that, making music visual, and it was so well done here. I also really love The Sorcerer's Apprentice. That story is so iconic with the wonderfully redesigned Mickey Mouse going around causing mischief and mayhem, and it's so good and so iconic. I also love The Rite of Spring, how we see the creation of the universe and Earth and the dinosaurs that look so good. The animation on these dinosaurs, they look lifelike, or as lifelike as you can make an animated dinosaur. It's so incredibly well done and epic in scale. The Pastoral Symphony is also really good, with just a great score, but also fitting it with the Greek gods and Greek mythology is also really good. I love seeing the centaurs walk around, run around, and just cause some mischief, and it's so much fun. But my favorite segment has to be Night on Bald Mountain, followed by the Ave Maria. Now, this is people's typically their favorite segment, besides maybe The Sorcerer's Apprentice, but I absolutely love this segment for how dark and grim it can be. Chernenbog itself is fantastic, beautifully animated, and incredibly terrifying. But then we settle all that with the Ave Maria. We see darkness seeping into the world, causing chaos, and then light comes and the Ave Maria plays, and we see that beautiful long shot, which was the longest shot that Disney had ever done at that point in terms of animation, and it's absolutely beautiful. We see the conquering of evil and hope on the sunrise. It's some of the best animation that I have ever seen, and it can really bring a tear to your eye watching that segment in particular. Fantasia is an absolute masterpiece of a film, and the craft of the music and the craft of the animation just fit together so well that there really isn't a lot to say wrong with this film. Now, I will say now, people may have some complaints with this film, especially if they're just not into, watching silent animation more or less to song. Now, this will be a movie that may test your patience a little bit. Now, being somebody that has ADHD, sometimes I found myself kind of drifting off here and there, but I never thought that the film was, it was the film's problem. I always felt it was me. But I think that if you are willing to not deal with a typical story structure, this is definitely something that you will enjoy. Now, I don't think that kids are necessarily going to get the same out of this as an adult will be, because a kid's not necessarily looking at the animation. They may be looking at the story, but I'm looking at the music, the techniques, the animation, and how that all combines together, and I have a deep appreciation for what was done here. I also found that it really helped to actually take the intermission that is in the middle of the film. So as the movie's going on, there's this guy talking throughout, telling you a little bit about the music that you're about to experience and the animation. And at the very middle of the film, there is an intermission that gives you 10-15 minutes to take a break and think about what you just watched, and then prepare for the second half. And I found that this break was very much warranted, because I was able to sit back a little bit and then go back into it. And absolutely enjoy it. Guys, I love Fantasia. It is an incredible film from an animation standpoint and from music. And just combining those two together into a wonderful package that should not have worked, but it ultimately did. This is an absolute masterpiece. It's not going to be for everybody, but I think you can still admire the craft that was put into the film. It's sad that Walt Disney never got to do anything quite like this on this scale ever again. He did try to do this again in the package film era, the wartime era, with things like Melody Time and Make Mine Music, but it was never quite on this scale with this much ambition, and we wouldn't ultimately get a Fantasia sequel until the turn of the century. So anyway, guys, with all that said, I'm going to give Fantasia a 9 out of 10. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and stay positive.